within our system. So the meditations that we do in focusing on the thymus gland, let me just come back. The meditations that we do, paying attention to our thymus and paying attention to, there we go. So the meditations that we do, paying attention to our thymus gland, love and compassion, they all have a very positive effect on developing and strengthening our immune system. So every aspect of yoga, gets connected to developing our immune system in such a way that it becomes easier for us to keep every aspect of our system well integrated. The next part after the maturation, like we all have seen that in the early stages of any infection, for example, if you're coming down with cough or cold or any upper respiratory tract infection, the common symptoms are, like coughing and sneezing. And the body is trained, it's like the B cells are trained. It's like, okay, initially it is going to be a very gentle approach, try to get the infection out of our system through sneezing or coughing. Sometimes people also have the flu that can cause them having um, the diarrhea or things like that, that can allow the body to eliminate all the toxins that come within our system. So these symptoms are not designed in terms of creating more problems because of the illness. It is just a simple mechanism of purging or getting rid of the infection that has entered in our system. The next level, the way our immune system operates, is by creating antibodies. Now, these antibodies are formed, of course, when the virus get along with the WBCs, phagocytes, lymphocytes. There are variety of different ways these cells are trained in tackling different kinds of infections. So as the body is, fighting with this particular infection, it also develops a special kind of antibodies. And those antibodies, because they start to flow once they develop the the superior relationship with the infection. That means now this infection is under control and our immune system is in charge. Then those antibodies will always be there in our system. Now, on an average, so far we have figured it out like over 200 different kinds of viruses that cause seasonal flu. In annually, when the flu vaccine is developed, it will take about 20 most common, predicted viruses that could be causing infection that year, and that's the vaccination that gets delivered. So it's more like guessing game, but in a very predicted scientific method of coming to the conclusion based on the season. Whereas if you look at the natural killer cells and our natural, the memory within our DNA, within our system, our body can recognize over millions of pathogens that can cause some kind of trouble or infection or even allergic response. So the genetic memory within our system is far, far, far more. So it always benefits to develop a strong immune system by going through certain simple practices. Now, if we want to recognize how do we know how strong is our immune system? Now, the Ayurveda suggests there are simple methods. Number one thing is if you go down the checklist, there is in your handouts, that information is also there. The basic 8 points are simple thing is like, if somebody is having regular bowel movement on a daily basis without having to worry about constipation or anything like that. There is no excess body weight, so the BMI within the norm. And remember, in yoga, we look at the body types between Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So there could be different body types, so that there could be slight variation in the weight, but as long as your body mass index based on your Vata, Pitta, and Kapha dosha is appropriate, then you are in good shape. Clean and clear skin. Skin is our biggest organ and it reflects even the minute toxicity or any kind of infection within our system. It also reflects our emotional and mental stressors too. So then also the absence of lethargy. So having a good energy flow from the morning all the way till the bedtime, strong hunger response, and a good night's sleep. Those are the two things my mom always reminded us, all of us. If you can sleep well and if you are getting hungry, that means you're getting well, especially after flu or anything that in the childhood that we were experiencing. No pain in the body. Our bodies are not designed to have any kind of pain. Pain is usually the indication that there is energy stagnation, there is some kind of toxicity, or the changes related to age related changes and arthritis that may be kicking in. And the experience of positive emotions, in spite of all kind of adversities, do we feel optimistic about life in general? So those are the basic 8 points that determines is our immune system is in strong shape or no. Next is, as we come into the identification of what does Ayurveda suggest, what is Ayurveda has to say about our immunity and what can we do. Ayurveda indicates that mala is the any kind of toxins in our system is the cause of diseases or illnesses. So the first thing when if you go to the Ayurvedic practitioner, they will give you a panchakarma or the detox to clean all your panchakoshas, annamaya kosh, manomaya kosh, vijnanamaya kosh, every all the different layers that we have, and they will give you a very strategic. Now, some of the intense practices that they will teach you will be like literally cleaning the upper GI tract, then anema and things like that for the lower GI tract and the long intestine and things like that. But some of the most common practices that anyone can do is by using the neti part to cleanse your sinuses and the nasal passages, saltwater gargling, that is also warm saltwater gargling that can create the upper respiratory tract, the mouth, and getting rid of the infection in that area. Also, oil pulling. So, those are some of the simple techniques that can be practiced, but also, as I suggested, always consult this is the ones that are practicing yoga obviously know that we will not advise unless we have recognized the needs of the individual and the person has consulted either yoga teacher, yoga acharya, or their spiritual gurus or master from their own lineage. Eating fresh fruits and vegetables allows us to have a great amount of fiber that can cleanse the GI tract. It is suggested that normally our meal should be at least having 40 to 60% of raw fruits and vegetables throughout the day. So, depending on if you eat 3 meals or 2 meals, the 40 to 60% of that should be based on the seasonal fruits and vegetables, eating from God's hands. That's what we say. And last but not the least, the fasting has amazing effect. Now, fasting can be done step by step. There are different ways you can actually develop a structure around the fasting too. People that are used to eating cooked food, it is difficult for them to switch from even cooked food to not eating at all. And that can actually have some damaging effect on our system. So we need to go step by step in progression, moving from cooked food to just the fruits and vegetables for a day to coming down to fruit juices, but not from the bottles or with any kind of chemicals, freshly squeezed fruit juices, along with stepping it down to just the simple lemon water and things like that. And eventually just taking around Ekadashi, which is the 11th day after new moon or full moon, where the energy system is working at its peak, it is suggested that the people that are sincere on the spiritual path or on the yogic path, they can take 30-hour gap. That means the dinner of, um, the night before the Ekadashi, after that, there is no food. So 12 hours of that night, the next day completely with no food at that night. So the next morning, the day after Ekadashi is fasting is there is a breakfast that you take. That's why it is called breakfast. But Interestingly, bringing the current evidence, the Japanese scientist Dr. Yoshinori Oshumi, he actually received a Nobel Prize in 2016 for his research on fasting. And that paper is also available on Google. And he clearly showed, actually, we were looking at it from the growth, from the physical and the spiritual growth standpoint. But in his study, it is purely showed from the scientific standpoint that not only that this is the best way to get rid of the toxins and sometimes some of the cancer cells from our system, but also regenerate brand new healthy cells in the body. So it actually has anti-aging effect along with detoxification. So this is a very recent research and the paper that is also available. And then once again, when you look at the handouts or the PowerPoints that I have sent it to the university, that research paper is also available for everyone to view. So, what can we do to strengthen our immune system? What is the yoga suggest and what is the evidence do we have? Now, the basic fundamental philosophy of yoga, we all know there is a Ashtanga yoga path. So, yama and niyama are designed for developing a self disciplinary practice so that we can connect with the life enhancing processes and practices. Beyond that, the asana practice is obviously best for developing a good, strong Annamaya Kosh, which is our physical body. Pranayama practices are excellent for cleansing our respiratory tract, and it also has like the breathing practices like Anulom Vilom, the alternate nostril breathing, also helps with bringing the balance in our emotional system. Once again, Bhastrika and Kapalabhati, those are intense pranayama. So there are certain contraindications like when somebody has high blood pressure or stroke or the markers that can indicate the bleeding in their brain or indications that their heart may not be as strong. They definitely need to be practicing these kind of pranayama under the direct guidance and supervision of an experienced yoga teacher. Pratyahara is a great practice because it develops an awareness and understanding in withdrawing from certain practices that could be detrimental or could be affecting our health. So it's a withdrawal of senses, five senses at the physical body level and five senses at the mental levels. Those are the subtle senses. So combining five plus five, withdrawal from all 10 senses to develop an absolute and clear awareness from within. So that is the process of having pratyahara to be practiced. And that is a great way about right now when we talk about social distancing under the COVID 19 circumstances and situations. That is nothing other than practicing pratyahara. We can socialize with beings, but we'll maintain 6 feet distance. So these are different ways it will find its avenue in keeping us safe and protecting our immune system. Then dharana and dhyana, those are the meditative practices that creates a perfect mental focus, but also creates a sharp focused mind about what we want to pursue and how we are going to pursue it. Okay. And last one, when all this initial 7 steps are practiced, then it becomes a lot more easier to come into samasthiti, samadhi, or equanimity within ourselves. And in that bliss body is where consciously the rejuvenation is taking place. When we achieve within meditation, when we achieve the alpha state of our brain waves, we know that that's where the highest healing is taking place. Because at nighttime, when we are in the deep sleep, beyond our dream state, beyond our REM sleep, that's where the healing and rejuvenation takes place at the cellular level. We can achieve the same effect by through the meditation by achieving that alpha state of mind. So some of the actually the research, there was a very interesting research that was conducted. It was the effects of integrated yoga. It was by Dr. Arvind Gopal. And what he did was he had actually selected, there was a study that was conducted over 60 first year medical students, the MBBS students, 30 of them in a control group, 30 of them in the study group. And the 30 students that were in the study group, they were required to do 35 minutes of simple yoga practices that require just the initial setting the intention, going through 12 minutes of yoga practices, pranayama, things like that, simple meditation at the end. And then, and it went on for 12 weeks. And the control group, those students didn't have to do anything. They just went to their classes, they did the regular thing, but they were not required to do anything. So at the end of the 12 weeks, not only that, they noticed that these students were much, much, much stronger in terms of their stress management, but the cytokines in their system, in their bloodstream, has much elevated level. Now, the cytokines is also part of our immune system. So just simple 35 minutes worth of practice for the first year MBBS students or the medical students. And we all know that moving from high school, going into the professional university level education, there is a huge difference. The life changes significantly. And even in this young age group, they showed significant level of improvement in stress reduction as well as a stronger immune response that they noticed. Now, what kind of yogasana practices can we develop? There are different ways we can approach how to boost our immune system. One, I told you, if we simply strengthen the heart centered meditation practices and yoga practices to strengthen our thymus, that's one way to tackle it or approach it. You can also find the perfect how to tridoshic balancing yoga practices. That means how to balance Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and offering those kind of meditation practices. That will be a great way. I have used the Panchavayu. Those are the, Prana, Apana, Udana, Samana, and, Vyana. I use that model to try to bring the balance step by step. And those asanas are given all the way from the foundation way up, because the moment these Panchavayus are balanced, our Panchakoshas become balanced, and that strengthens our immune system. So, in your handout, you will notice some of the simple examples. For example, when you want to bring the balance between Apana Vayu, which is situated in the lower abdominal area, any of the hip opening poses, those will be great to establish a solid foundation for a strong body. The next level is coming into the activating the Samana Vayu, which has a direct link between balancing our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. That's the one that creates the fight or fright reaction, or it develops if we have a strong parasympathetic response, it develops a good strong vagal tone and it strengthens our immune system. The next is activating Vyana. It's elongation, poses that will help us to elongate the spine, reaching up higher. So, Utkita Tadasana, anything that will be helping us going up, straight up, reaching up, and elongation, those are all the great poses. Activation of prana in the chest region, those are obviously the best practices right now under the current COVID-19 circumstances. That will be opening chest opening poses like camel pose or the bridge pose, anything that will help the person to open their chest. Those will be the great practices. Udana Vayu, that is situated in the throat, has a direct link in cleansing our lymphatic system. So, Sarvangasana or even uh, the simple practices that will give the Viparita Karani, anything that is just, bringing inversions, those will be the best practices. Last but not the least, the rotational poses at the spinal level, those are great ways to detox our system at the cellular level. So that those are some I have used that particular model, but once again, as a yoga practitioner, when you need look at a specific need, you can also develop a specific program that can enhance the and intensify the immune system. One more article that really drew my attention as I was doing research in this area is about the Ayurvedic herbs that we can use. And this particular study was conducted on the Ayurvedic system of medicine and using the nutritional supplements by M. Pandey. And there are a variety of not only just the regular herbs and spices, but it also highlighted some of the rasayanas or the combinations that have been used very commonly. So shatavari or gukul or licorice, neem, jetamansi. And once again, when you download my PowerPoints, you will definitely get not only this basic information, but also which article you can have full access to in having a clear understanding of how to find which herbs and spices can be used in case of boosting our immune system. The next, I also wanted to share there was two articles that really got my attention. One was related to COVID-19, um, and it is by Dr. Nagendra, and the last one is the physiological effects and practices of transcendental meditation. And there is also an article on using the public health article that shows which practices can be beneficial. So I hope you can find this information really helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a text message or send your questions in the chat box. Okay? Namaste. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for this opportunity.